Alrighty, folks, it is 10:48 here on the East Coast. We're getting a late start, but welcome to Twitchline, your home for relationship advice here on Twitch. I am your host, Hodo, joined as always by my best friend, Acorn, who has bought himself a new mic.
That's right, people. Suck it up. It's beautiful. Bask in it. The glory that is my voice when appropriately matched with a fine piece of machinery like this microphone. Actually, I didn't buy it. My dad gave it to me, and I don't know. It's different. It's very large and hard to ignore, so I'm gonna have to get over that. But so far, I enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely, and he sounds super sexy. As Mr. Acorn here advances in the broadcasting world. But I'd like to welcome everybody here to Twitchline on this Wednesday evening. As always, we talk about relationships and advice for the people who need them here on this channel. We also talk about all sorts of other things on Thursdays and on Sundays. So we cast about 3 days a week. So please stop on by if we're ever on live. You can contact us via email at twitchlinelove@gmail.com. You can also tweet us on the Twitters at Twitchline. We are also streaming live onto YouTube, where we keep all of our archived videos. You can just search Twitchline Love and Relationship Advice on YouTube, and you will see our channel. Drop a subscribe on there so that you'll know exactly when we've added things to the channel and when we go live. Also, you can also listen to us on SoundCloud on the go on your mobile devices or on laptops, portable phones, iPads, you name it. Just download the app, search Twitchline on SoundCloud, and there we will be. So, welcome as always as we get into the initial start here of the show. Just a little bit of questions. How you doing today? How's your week been going, Mr. Tim?
Very well. We have been basically gutting and starting to remodel a home that my brother bought. And uh, so I've been just putting in a lot of grunt work this last week and a half, breaking up tiles, ripping out old carpet, and pulling up the ticky tacky stuff that keeps the carpet on the ground, and shopping for tile, breathing a lot of dust. So I've been having some issues breathing as well.
Just fun stuff, it sounds like.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's it's like I think this gets down to the basic needs of people, and I guess more traditionally men, which is problem, solve the problem, project, get something from its basic pieces, complete it, get to the final result. Like there's something really rewarding in that, and actually there's something really rewarding in demolition as well. I found that's a lot of fun to smash things with a hammer. So
Oh yeah,
a lot of
men
levels here.
found that one out long time ago. Don't like this wall? All right, let's take a sledgehammer to it. This is gonna be fun.
Now, you can actually buy. I mean, you can rent smash rooms. So it's like if you want to get out some of your stress, you can go over there and pay a few dollars, and they'll set it all up for you. You just go in there and smash the hell out of it.
Yeah, everybody's
Seems like a
different.
great way to reduce stress.
I would think so. I prefer relaxation and massage myself, but that's just me.
You can do both. Get a guy that does both.
Somebody to massage you while I'm banging a hammer.
Oh, I
A
didn't mean at the same
sledgehammer.
time. There's always those and I guess it's kind of sexist, but there's those memes out there. They're like, get a girl who can do both, and it shows a girl all dressed up and like ready to go out into town, and then a girl that's also like able to get dirty and work on the car or something. Same thing with a guy. Get a guy who can smash things when you need them smashed, and talk about your feelings when you need to do that too.
No, absolutely. So let's get started on now here with the show as we start off with our first topic today. The thing about it is this week's topics, even though we do get to a late start, are some more interesting ones. And the first one is labeled "Dating is effing hard," as if everybody who's single didn't know that to start off with.
Right. That's like uh, literally anyone who's tried online dating has the exact same feeling as this girl. But uh, what's interesting is the way that she kind of approaches her thinking in the process, and that kind of tells us a lot. So, what I think we'll do is read it out, and then we'll just kind of get into it, break it down to its pieces, and then see where the conversation goes.
Exactly.
All right, so this is from r/dating, and our user is Liss is More. And again, she's titled it "Dating is Effing Hard." And she says, "That's really all. I'm a 25-year-old female in Tindering, and it's flipping exhausting. Going home and wondering if you let too many crazy flags fly, or if they weren't attracted to something you did, are, or wore. Playing the game of texting soon enough to seem interested, but not too soon to seem clingy or desperate. Putting enough effort into communication, but not too much. Telling enough about yourself to seem interesting and unique, but not oversharing or exposing too much. It's exhausting. I'm exhausted, and that's really it." So we've got ourselves a rant here. That's pretty common in the dating Reddits. This one was cleaner than others, so I got to give her credit for that. But yes, hello and welcome to the world of dating. And as difficult as it is on its own, people love to make it even harder by creating rules that don't even have to exist, creating areas of stress that are completely unnecessary, and then fostering dynamics that only serve to disrupt the natural flow of things. Are you doing okay over there?
Am coughing. I've been cutting over something, so please excuse me. I'm just trying to
Oh,
mute myself.
no, I thought you were choking on some drink or something.
No.
Anyways, all right. Sorry, I didn't mean to make fun of you then. So yeah, basically just that people they're setting themselves up for difficulties by creating rules, by stressing on things that they don't need to stress on, and then actually living into dynamics that actually get in the way of the natural flow of things in dating. So yay for people. I thought it'd be interesting to break down kind of like point by point the things that she mentioned because there's a lot in there. If we start off with her comment about not wanting to let her crazy flags fly, my initial response to that is if you recognize them as crazy, which can be a dangerous word, then you might have to admit to yourself that there are things that you need to attend to in your own, in your own head and heart. But that being said, you have to be the true you because hiding it will just give the illusion that you're someone else or that you're trying to be someone else. And then when they inevitably find out who you are, it's just going to cause bigger problems. And then the other side of that is that do you really want to suppress and hide who you are just to maintain a relationship? It seems like that would be more exhausting than anything else. Z, what's your 2-minute take on hiding things that you perceive would be red flags to other people, to a potential dater?
I think you're not exposing yourself, or not exposing, whereas not allowing yourself to be you. Um, just the short skinny of it is, I believe that if you are trying to hide aspects of yourself, you're not being honest to the other person. People who end up in relationships accept the crazy flags or accept you for who you are, what you like, what you do, how you literally like live. So for you to hide these things, just I don't know. To me, it's dishonest. Uh, you might if you think they're red flags, then you definitely don't want to see it in another partner. But maybe you could also be um, just a bit selfish because you do them. So why is it okay in your mind when you do them, but it's quote red flags if other people do them? I don't know. It's to me, if people hide little aspects of their personality, it comes out later on. So how the hell are you going to explain it later, when something like that does come out, and it make you look worse, because your partner will be questioning like, "Have you always been this way?" I was like, "I've never seen this. What were you doing?" I was like, "Well, you were hiding it." It's like, "You were hiding it." It's like, "The hell are you doing?" It's like, if I would have known this in the very beginning, I don't think I would have done anything. If that's what you're trying to prevent, you're just basically delaying the inevitable. So,
Yeah, true
yeah.
enough. Um, Now, so I think it's okay for people to, uh, I won't say mute. What's the word I'm looking for? To, I guess, rein in certain elements of their personality on a first date, or first couple dates, only because sometimes people can be overwhelming, and maybe they've been told in the past like, whoa, that really was just too much, too fast, too soon, kind of thing, and that uh, it takes a little bit for them to have to like they have to like get to know you and like you before that element of your personality is allowed to come fully to the front. And so, an example of this: if you are a very funny person and your your humor is just like big, loud, uh, maybe it's offensive or whatever, but like that can be that can be there, but it doesn't have to be what you lead with. It doesn't have to be that how that person gets to know you, unless you are just that as you is entirely who you are. And if they don't get that and don't want that from the get-go, then they shouldn't be there, in which case that's not really a red flag that you're waving. You're just saying, this is who I am, this is what I need, and I need someone who wants this. So then it's not a problem. You don't need to hide it.
Hmm.
um but then she kind of connected that to this idea that, like, okay, maybe you don't show too many of these what you consider crazy flags. But the other side, she says that she'd be worried that maybe they weren't attracted to something you did, or that you are, or that you wore. And I thought that was really, I don't know, kind of sad to me.
Mm.
Um, this is literally the reason for dating. If this person's not a match, you want to know that straight away. And if they're shallow enough to judge you and opt out over something you wore, then you seriously dodged a bullet. Like, if someone is judging you on your clothes on the first date in an improper way, like if you show up looking like a schlub, or you're covered in mustard or something, like, yeah, you deserve to have someone point that out to you and be like, hey, clean yourself up. But if you just showed up looking what you think is nice, and trying to be your best self, and they have an issue with that, you don't want to be with that person. And that's fine. But like, you don't need to be worried about whether or not someone is going to accept you as a whole on a first date. This person doesn't know you, and they will not know you on the first date. And if they're going to be wholly judging off of a couple hours together, then again, there's no big loss there if that doesn't work out.
To me, this could be one of two things. Uh, the first thing I think is absolutely the case is this person is not very experienced in the dating world, just by the things that she says, and the things that she mentions with regards to some of the things. The other thing is that this happens sometimes, not very often, but sometimes, like when you've been in a relationship, or relationships come easy to you, especially when you're in your uh, late teens, early 20s, where you're in a high school environment or a college environment. This Liz Moore is actually 25, and is on near the beginning of her professional career life, usually, assuming Liz is not a graduate student or something like that. But when you leave that environment of easy, lots of people to talk to, lots of people your age, you really don't really have to try very hard to find somebody. Um, you can end up becoming jaded and bitter, because the experiences that you've had leading up to this point, were completely different because now you are in a different part of your life. And to me, it seems like a little bit of that, but I can't confirm it. She doesn't actually mention very much in her post. It's a ranting post about how it's effing exhausting. It can't be that effing exhausting. You're only 25. So it's like you've been in the dating world what 10 years total, and you're a woman and you haven't found anybody that that you feel like you want to date. I mean, just whining a little bit and posturing about how other people have it easier. But I don't know. Am I reading too much into it?
I mean, you are going down the path of telling this girl's story outside of what she shared with us, and the problem is we just don't know what her
Yeah.
experience is.
Mhm.
But the fact remains that it is exhausting for her, and everything that she put down here explains why it is so exhausting for her. This doesn't have to be what dating looks like. This is what her dating world looks like, and 90% of the issues that she has with this is internal, and it's her over overthinking, overreacting, over worrying about all the elements that are just going to be there in dating. So I think she's struggling, but I don't think she has to, and I think we'll get there after one or two more points I wanted to make. Uh, we've had a number of Reddit responses and maybe even a deep dive on texting and some of the issues that come along with texting, and this whole like texting too soon, texting too late, and that having a meaning. I hold to the idea that that is not reality. That if someone is superficial enough to pass on you because of the timing of your text, assuming that it was responsible, then you really aren't missing out. That there's really, I mean, unless you're being really awkward, if the second you say goodbye and they get in their taxi, you text them, that is just a little weird. But if there's purpose to it, then maybe not. And if you text them 15 times before they get home from that taxi, then maybe maybe you're going too far. But that's not because it's some weird dating rule. That's just you being an awkward person. So acting cool will solve so many of these problems for her. Just relaxing, just like letting things be. If you are so excited about this person that you want to talk to them after your date, do that. And if they receive it and get back to you, well, then it wasn't a problem, was it? And if they don't, well, then you find out. But I don't know too many people that are like, man, this person was perfect except for the texting. The texting, it just made me so I couldn't spend my life with them.
Sounds
You
like
know,
a
that I don't see
Seinfeld.
that happening.
It sounds like a
Yeah,
Seinfeld episode. Is
right.
basically
Curb
it's
your
like, man, she's
enthusiasm.
absolutely great. Yeah, Curb Your Enthusiasm, same thing. She's absolutely great. She's absolutely fantastic, but man, she just texts too much. So I'm not going to deal with that. It's like,
Shame about those texts.
yeah, shame about those texts.
Yeah. um, so, and then the next thing, I think, or at least the last part of her post here, was just issues in communication. She's talking about telling enough about yourself, but not oversharing or exposing too much. I think that what she should probably try to take away from this when she hears it is that you need balance in all things. That this process should not be that exhausting. It should be more comfortable, and not because it's any different in action. The internal processes that she's going through are what make her feel depleted, energy wise and emotion wise. So if there is an imbalance in communication, it is because of a mismatch in the person that you're with, or the fact that one or both of you is interfering with the natural flow of communication. Right. So we have, being coming up in society, we have rules in the way that we communicate with each other. in that you don't just go up to someone and dump all your stuff on them and your deepest darkest secrets, because that's improper and everyone knows that. And if you don't share anything of yourself, you're not going to get to know anyone, and you're not going to be able to date that way either. So like there's generally just a normal balance, and you don't have to be hyper vigilant about, did I just say too much? Am I not giving enough? What's this person thinking across the way? Like all that whole conversation going on in her mind just needs to be shut down. So I'm getting a sense that she's kind of an overthinker, and she's probably just stressing herself out with this pursuit of perceived perfection, which is like how the dates are exactly supposed to go. When in reality, if she just relaxes and just says, it's dinner, and I'm going to talk to a person, and I'm going to find out if this person's someone I want to talk to again. Make it that simple, and all that other stuff will just happen, and you don't have to worry about it. So, Z, I don't know if you have something you want to respond to there, but if you don't, I have a question for you.
No, I was just going to say, your overthinker um, theory, I think, is a very good one. I just, I just think that there's something more too, because something just doesn't seem right when I read her post, and it just to me, it just seems like it's whining. But I mean, to not understand that, you know, things can go wrong in dating, and that um, there are everybody has issues with it, and understanding it's exhausting, yeah, for everyone. But um, then to worry about all the stuff like that, I don't know, just seems very very odd to me. So, but yeah, what was your question, by the way?
Okay. But before I go into that, so you don't think this is, you don't think a lot of people go through these same thought processes?
I think there are people who overthink things. Absolutely. We actually know one, and I think you might have dated one who uh, absolutely went overboard when it came to things. Um, Even the minor things, and it was exhausting for people to be around her. I think I think somebody who is an overthinker actually stresses people who they're with more than possibly with themselves sometimes, because their pursuit of perfection usually leads them to abandoning things relatively quickly if they realize that it's not going to go so another way. But I don't know if this is a combination of that and then lingering, or this and just not having the gene to just say I don't give an f, because I mean, like there's just a couple of things that just bother me. It's like worrying about the texting and the wearing and the stuff like that, um, and just not understanding like what you really should be and what you should be looking for in a relationship. It's uh, I don't know if just there are that many people out there who have no idea what it is that they're trying to achieve when they're dating. There should be a clear goal of what it is that you should want, and the people who date who don't have that, I always find end up in terrible relationships, but also uh, have this knack of being very inexperienced with regards to the whole dating world. So
Yeah. I guess, I mean, yeah, it would be nice to have a little more information about her experiences and how she's, if there are any particular experiences that have led her to feel this way, or if this is just all in her head and this is just what's coming out here.
yeah,
So, my question was, what are, in your opinion, what are some of the things that people do that get in the way of their dating success?
well, there are a lot of stuff
Sure.
that they do,
So
but
I was thinking like before the date, during the date, after the date, like anything. Like what just comes to your mind when I say what is something that a person does that would get in the way of success during a date, or you know, in
well,
the moment.
in the moment, let's start with beforehand. Um, Basically, hyping the date up to something that it will never ever be. First things first. It's like going to a movie in this particular case. Um, you, let's say, have a date with a girl. You've set it up. You're going to go out Friday night. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. If you build that up too much in your head, it can ruin it for you before you even go in on the date. And it is something that you have to be absolutely careful about when going into a first date or even a second date situation, um, and could lead to things that can ruin the date. During the date, I believe that not being yourself is also very detrimental to your situation, because those who are fake have to fake it all the time, and that can be very exhausting, especially dishonest also to the other person. But that's a whole nother thing. But trying to keep exaggerations up when you are dating can be very, very bad. Being perceived like you have more money than you actually have can be very detrimental to yourself. All those things. And, post date, uh, not being able to read the other person properly. So, if you did have a good date, fantastic. You might be very hard pressed to contact her, but you could actually ask. You could actually make a joke out of it. If you know you both are having a good time, you can sort of joke around and say, "Hey, look, I've been dating a long time. I really like you. This is great." It's like, do you subscribe to this whole crazy nonsense of not texting anybody after you have to wait a couple days before I text you, or is it just one of those things in which it's like, hey, like I can contact you tomorrow if you want to go out and grab something to eat. So it's you really do get a sense of somebody when you're actually just being honest with them. And a lot of the times people are very, very unwilling to put themselves out there, because every time they do, something bad happens. So it ends up building this sort of shell around them that it's very, very hard for them to try to get out of when they try to do it. So those are my examples of people ruining it for themselves. Honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. And I think that's some of those things speak to this girl's fears,
Yeah.
because she has, I don't know if she hypes it up in the beginning, but I know that she goes through all the stuff in their head, and during the date, and then afterwards worrying about how how it went, and whether this person's judging her. You know that she's got that cycle going on in her mind the whole
it's it's
time. So
it's a
it's got to be
form of,
tough.
yeah, you're neurotic in that particular way. And guys are the same way with regards to this.
True. Yep.
This is not a female only problem. Men do this all the time. And men, the thing about it is it's portrayed in movies as being, quote, thirsty. Because
Yep.
usually what happens is on the male side, it's like they just want to try to get on with anybody that they meet. And it's just completely the opposite of what this is, but it's the same problem. Like, you're just going about it the wrong way. And on the male side, in that particular case, it's like, it's more hormone driven, and on the female side, it's just overthinking and trying to find that sort of perfect uh, sort of thing that you've built up in your head, and that might not actually exist. So you find a lot of women, especially, you know, saying it's like, "Oh, I'll never settle." You'll hear guys say the same thing too, but I've heard a lot more women, in my experience, it's like, "Oh, I'm never able to be settled," and those people end up being alone later on in their lives, and that whole "I'm not settling" thing is also building up a standard that possibly just doesn't exist in the world. And if it does exist in the world, there's no guarantee that that will actually fall in love with you. So, and that's the part that I think a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, it's true. I
Yeah.
think we did it. Did we do an early deep dive on that one
Yeah,
for a Sunday topic?
we
Setting
did
standards.
setting standards. Yep,
Oh,
and like
that one's
realizing,
in the
understanding what
archives somewhere.
exactly. And you can find that in the archive on YouTube. That's available there. But it's
That
an
might have even been before we went to YouTube.
yeah, that
I'm
could
not sure.
be
That might
could be
just
one
be
of the first
lost.
few. But it is one of those things in which it's like the reason we did a deep dive on it is because of the issues here that Lysis Moore is actually talking about. There are issues about that and not understanding, and sometimes that takes experience, but sometimes it takes a little bit of help from other people to help you realize it. So honestly, I
True.
hope Lysis Moore is actually going to friends and and expressing the same frustrations with them, and hopefully them giving some constructive advice about maybe letting go a little bit, and maybe that'll actually help you out in the long run.
Yeah, enhance your calm, John Spartan.
John Spartan,
She
yes,
just needs to.
yes,
She just needs to like turn it off, turn off the dialogue,
yeah.
and just be,
Well,
and just be, and be. And if the person wants that, then great. And if they don't, then move on to the next one.
and even the Reddit comments, like they actually picked up on that whole, um, you know, uh, overthinking part, which is I think a common theme because of the way they read it. I just think that, um, I don't know. I have this nagging feeling there's just a little bit extra, but without any extra details regarding her life, that's all we can do is assume. So there's nothing.
All right, this is more. If you hear this, you want to clue us in on some stuff, go ahead and send us an email at twitchlinelove@gmail.com.
That's right.
Or hit us up on Twitter, and we will take it to the next place. But just to keep this ball rolling here, let's move on to the next topic.
Yep.
I thought this one was interesting in that it is an unusual problem, but I think the underlying relationship features are not. I think they're very common. So why don't you take this one away, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, the topic for this particular subject is my boyfriend won't break up with me. Not something you hear a lot, but let's go into it and figure out what is going on here. So this is from the relationship advice subreddit, and it's a couple who my 21-year-old female boyfriend, and she is 21 years old and female. And she has a boyfriend who's 7 years older, who's 28, won't break up with me. This is from Simp FK0. So let's read this out, shall we? I tried several times in the past few months to break up with him, but in the end, I always got convinced that things will work out. I realized it doesn't. That's not the problem I'm having, though. I know this relationship is not going to work out. The problem I'm having is whenever I try to break up with my boyfriend, he won't break up with me. He first asks me why I'm breaking up with him. When I give him an answer, he says that the reason I provided is not good enough to reason to break up with him. Then he goes saying, I've done so much for you. How can you take my future away from me? Everyone ends up leaving me and such. He then finally throws a fit, cries for hours, hyperventilates, yells at me in the end. Every time I tried breaking up with him, I just couldn't do it because it made me feel so guilty. So Reddit, how can I actually break up with my boyfriend while minimizing the chance of him throwing a fit? TLDR, my boyfriend won't break up with me and always guilt trip me back whenever I try to. What should I do? We actually had a topic similar to this, and I reference this person back to one of our older shows. What this is controlling behavior. This is not he won't break up with me. He's playing your sympathies to manipulate a situation so that he stays in something that you know is not going to last. What he's doing is that he's slowly trying to guilt you every time he knows the guy comes up by using an emotional reaction to basically make you change your mind. This is dishonest. This is also dangerous because it leads to other behaviors that are not at all good when it comes to relationships. I think in the example that we had previously, Tim, I think it was a woman who was actually doing the acting up, and it was a man who wanted to try to break up with her. In this other case, this is the roles reversed. So, and even then, we actually said that the situation is not gender specific. It happens to both sides. This is a manipulation issue. This is not and manipulation and control issue. This is not a emotional issue at all. What you have to do in this particular situation is you're gonna have to do it in public, because what's going to happen is that he's realizing that anytime he has you alone, he can change your mind. You already know that the relationship is over, and theoretically, you should just be able to just walk out and say it's done. I don't have to listen to you anymore. Hasta la vista. I'm out of here. Um, you're just too good of a person because you fall for the crying and the hyperventilating and the yelling, and it makes you feel bad. But you have to understand that it's all manipulation, and it is not in any way something that you should be falling for. A breakup, when you do it, should just be that. It's a breakup. I'm sorry, I cannot see you anymore. I don't think this relationship is going the way that it should be going. I really apologize for it, but that's about it. There sometimes, especially if the other side sees that there might be something there, they might try to convince you, but that convincing doesn't end up breaking into crying, hyperventilating, or yelling. Or sometimes it comes into yelling, but in the end, they have to also accept that decision too, because a relationship is made up of two people, not one person who is a manipulating, crying person to keep that person in a relationship. Essentially, all he's doing is keeping you hostage. So, in this particular case, um, walking out on him or breaking up with him in public, where he can't basically do that, or maybe um, has to rely on strangers or your friends, but you also might want to let your friends know of the situation that's going on because you might need help to get out of it eventually. But this is not healthy at all. So,
Yeah, this is a tough situation she's found herself in, and all too common. I think. I mean, I wouldn't say it's common that like a person doesn't accept your breakup. I mean, most people usually it's one-sided, and sometimes they don't want to accept the reality of it, but they have to accept what's happening, right? I haven't heard too many situations where someone's like, "Nope, nope, I'm not listening. I'm not listening. I'm with you forever." Like that's a little strange, but um, my short answer to this person's post here is it doesn't matter if he accepts it or not.
yeah,
If you break up, you're broken up. And so then I have to kind of turn the spotlight towards her and say, there's an issue here about why you're still carrying on with him when you said that you're breaking up. And the guilt thing is working on her. So she needs to think about how to stop that process and so that she can get away. Uh, but a pro tip for all those people out there that are just sort of thinking through this thing with us: um, if someone has to convince you why they're right for you and why you should be together, then that is a major sign that you probably should not be with them. Like, what love story have you ever heard that involved arm twisting?
Beauty and the Beast.
There are other issues, non-consent issues
She was
related
held
to Beauty and the
hostage in his
Beast.
castle, Tim. Come on.
Dude, he had a comatose girl that he was making out with. Dude needs to go to prison. Um, so, yeah. Anyways, but just like in general, I'm saying I've given this advice to close personal friends who are at the very beginning of their relationships, and they're saying, uh, I've got this girl that I like, and she's sort of like, I don't know, lukewarm feelings about me. And so I'm telling her, here's the checklist. This is why I'm great. Da, da, da. I'm like, dude, if you're telling her why you're good and why she should be with you, that's a problem.
It is a
She
problem.
should either see it and want to pursue it. And if she's not feeling it, dude, that's just it, man. Let it be. Because you're not going to win that. You're going to be uphill from the start, and you're always going to be trying to make her want you. And no, it's just not how it works.
Yeah. The
I,
the
I th- Go ahead.
excuse me. You shouldn't feel sorry for somebody and be in a relationship with them at the same time in that particular way. You need to be in
True.
relation you need to be the reason you need to be in a relationship with somebody is because you want to be in a relationship with somebody. Because you feel sorry for somebody is not a reason to date a person. And no matter how bad it feels to break up with somebody in this particular case, and in this particular case, Simp FK0 is probably just a very nice person and doesn't want to harm anybody. But the part of relationships um, is that especially if it's a relationship that is over, you're going to be hurting the other person because you're basically saying you do not want to be with that person. Um, it is it is just something that is part of being in relationships. So there is nothing that you can say or do about that. You just have to be willing to accept it, and it is a fact of life. So if that other person, your significant other, who is the 28M, is unwilling to accept that, then that is his problem, not yours.
True enough, man. I dislike, and I think that the way that he's behaving indicates to me the reasons why she wants to be away from him. Because if he's using these kind of emotional manipulations, that is going to be a huge turnoff, and it's not fair. Um, he's basically trying to guilt her into being with him,
Mm-hmm.
and he's using different kinds of guilt. This dude's got game. He's using investment guilt, like we've come this far. You should be with me. I invested so much in this relationship. You owe this to me. And then he's got the pity me guilt that he's doing at the same time, which is like, what am I going to do without you? What did he say exactly? He said, how can you take my future away from me? Everyone ends up leaving me. I mean, that's just sad.
That is sad.
And it's effective too, because he probably made her his world, and so she probably feels like cutting him out is going to be too much for him to handle, and that's just wrong. And he starts like crying and yelling like a baby having a tantrum. So, like a child, you have to treat him like a child, and that like you're not actually sealing the deal when you break up and then stay with him. It sort of reinforces this bad behavioral tactic he has of making you feel bad and keeping you, because he'll do it more because he knows that it's worked so far. So if she's looking for a non-dramatic way to exit here, I don't see that as possible. And actually, Z, you already gave your advice how she can
Mm-hmm.
get away from him with minimal drama. You said go to a public place, or maybe even have friends there to make sure she's safe. Try to find a way to minimize how much his tactics will work. Do you think that doing it over the phone or by letter or whatever, email, text, is acceptable, or or do you think that their relationship is too serious for that?
Well, it just really depends on how long the relationship. I don't ever advise having a text breakup, but it seems to me that she's having issues in person, and a text breakup usually will go a little further in this particular case because um, what could happen is you could break up with him and then just block him on your phone so you don't get any messages so he can't text back, or he's basically texting into the oblivion. But knowing the way that the reactions have come back, this particular boyfriend would then come rushing back, or going to her apartment and trying to reconvince her in person, because remember, like, this is the deal is here is that he's just coming back to her and trying to get her one on one, start having these emotional outbursts, and then using that to convince her to stay with him. Um, that's when this is one of the rare cases where a text breakup might actually be useful. Put yourself in a situation where you're not alone, where he can't come at you by yourself. Be with your friends, be at a bar, go out. Don't let him know where you are, and don't give him the opportunity to manipulate you into trying to do it. And give it a couple days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and then see what happens. Uh,
Yeah,
because
I
yeah,
I think I'm with you on this one. That it is not correct. It is improper to break up with someone through text. Uh, a well thought long email maybe,
uh,
but that is in the case where you cannot have this conversation with them and deal with their either upsetness, anger, whatever it may be. Um, in this case, she's already done it a few times.
yeah,
And so for me, at this point, a text or an email would be enough, because she's already said what she needs to say. She's indicated what she wants to do, and he's not having it. So putting it all out there and just letting it be the last word, I think that's fine.
yeah,
I also, with her, I'd have it in my mind that there are rules to this engagement, and that At some point, she should be getting angry at his response because he's trying to emotionally manipulate her, or at least indicate that, like, if this conversation goes in that direction again, that she's just going to walk away, and that's going to be it. That he had his chance, and it's done.
No, you're absolutely right. So, I just think she just needs to find a way to basically just, uh, in this particular case, she needs to uh, be able to say, this is it, it's over, and then just walk out, and then just be done with it. You've heard it too many times. You've heard the arguing, the abdomen, like the manipulation and the convincing. You just don't need to hear it anymore. It's done with. It's over. He's got to deal with that issue, and because what ends up happening is the next step in trying to convince you to not break up with him is the I can't live without you. Oh my god, I'm going to try to kill myself, because that comes out eventually too. Because what happens is they realize that their manipulation isn't working, so they try to fake some sort of weird suicide attempt or self harm in some way. That is the mark of desperation, and if they end up going that far, because some people end up do going that far, then you need to definitely break up with them and then make them seek professional help at that point. So there are levels to manipulation. I think she's like right at the edge there of this person maybe taking it a little far. So
We'll see. I mean, we won't see, but she will see. And but she's right. That the way that the guy's behaving related to the breakup gives me every indication and every bit of knowledge that I need to have to say that she's making the right decision. So best of luck to her. I hope she gets out clean, and get some support. Let people know what's going on, and hopefully, dude will figure himself out and grow up a little bit, because that's some childish shit.
it is.
Let's go ahead, skip on. The next one, we have topic 3 here. This was on Reddit and was then deleted, not before being picked up by the MGTOW community. Do you know who those guys are?
I have no idea what that is. Please explain that to me.
Men going their own way. This is like a group of guys that have decided, you know what, I don't want to deal with women stuff anymore, and I'm just going to do my own man thing. I don't need to.
What is it called? The MGTOW?
MGTOW. We can get in there sometime and start picking that stuff apart. It's cleaner than the incel community, but not by a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of similar thinking there, but a lot of misogyny and people using science and stuff to make their ideas seem like they're smart ones. It's mostly disappointing when you read over there, but this was picked up because the guys over there thought that it was funny. But a lady was, and I can't remember if he was just dating or if they're married. I think they might be married. No, okay, no, they were dating. They're in their mid-20s, and she was afraid that her boyfriend was becoming too attractive for her. She and he got into the relationship where they were both overweight, I guess obese, and he's been cleaning himself up, going to the gym, exercising, eating right, losing the weight, taking better care of his appearance, and it's showing. He's getting attention from women where he wasn't before. She is starting to feel bad about herself because of this, because of the attention that women are giving him, and also just because he's made so many improvements and she feels that she has not. And she's actually come to the point where she's saying to herself that he is getting to a place where he's almost too attractive to be with her, where she feels that way in her mind, and that she hasn't really talked to him about this yet. So I thought it was interesting, and I read it a couple days ago, and then wanted to come back to it for tonight's show, and it was already gone. But I think it is something that a lot of people deal with in relationships as it relates to jealousy and the changes that can take place inside of a relationship. when someone changes. And so looking at this like on the surface, I see three main uh, just combination of three things that are happening for her that are causing these problems. And the first is the fear of rejection and abandonment. And that's a fairly common fear to have. Generally, the rejection thing is at the beginning when you're dating and stuff. But at this point, because of the change, because of the significant change in him within the relationship, I think that pushes her back to a place as though she's almost being uh, that she would be then he would have the choice whether or not to accept her again, whether or not
Mm-hmm.
to want her again, and that at some point he might just be like, "Hey, I can do better than her, and I'm going to," and then just abandon her. So I think that's there. I think that she has a lot of insecurity about her body, and I think she associates her body to her value.
Yep.
I think society pushes that on a lot of people. I think that she probably discounts her other areas of value, the things that he appreciates about her. Uh, if and I think this might help her in her thinking. It's like if he originally was with her not because of her body, but for the other things that she values and he values, why would that change? Right? He still would value who she is because nothing on her side has changed. If his values and his I guess aspirations are changing with his changes in himself, then yeah, maybe then she has something to worry about. But that's something that they can deal with. And then I think the third part of it is that she just has this jealousy building inside of her based on a hypothetical. Like it's not reality. He's not seeking out other women yet. He's not cheating on her. He's not telling her if you don't lose weight, I'm going to leave you. Like none of that stuff is happening. So all
Mm-hmm.
of this jealousy that's building up and these issues she's having internally are based on this idea that they could come and not that they are coming. So I think those things together are probably causing her a lot of issues. Any thoughts on stuff so far?
Yeah, fear. This is an interesting situation because the fear is real, right? It is. It is one of those situations where you look at your partner, and this happens not necessarily just due to attractiveness. There are other life situations where this can happen too. In the business world, for example, you are seeing a partner all of a sudden do really well at work, start having promotions. More money comes in, benefits both of you at the beginning. It's great. Everything's going on. He's working long hours. He's got more responsibilities, or she has more responsibilities. Other person starts to resent the other person because of their success. Very similar situation in here, where the one of the partners in the relationship has become more attractive, started to lose weight, um, starting to get the attention of more of the opposite sex for his successes in his life with regards to his body issues, uh, becoming more, to athletic, skinny, whatever you want to call it. Um, and she feels like she's being left behind. And it is not an uncommon feeling. Um, but it is one of those things in which I honestly believe that if she has these feelings about it, then she needs to absolutely talk to her partner about it too. It is it is not fun to be jealous of your significant other because what they're trying to do is better themselves. What it is also is that because they're bettering themselves, you're equating to them bettering themselves as to your self-worth being not as well because you feel like that you are undeserving of a person that attractive, which is also very terrible to think about. Um, we actually had a discussion where we were discussing of, where should people be on a ladder? Is there such thing as a person being on my quote level? And this is one of those situations where I think she's looking at it where um, he has become more attractive. He has lost weight. He has bettered himself. Has he increased his level so that she cannot quest with him anymore? Is basically what is going on.
You're
I
talking
don't know.
about out of your league kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Essentially, I mean, like I'm trying to use a WoW analogy because that is the game that I'm playing right now. It's like all of a sudden, he's already 40 and has a horse, and has gotten the gold that he needs to and is able to travel faster, while she is level 35, poor, and has to walk around and depend on zeppelins. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's not in any way beneficial, at least in her mind, because he's able to going to be able to do more, be able to talk to more, experience more things, and she's afraid that she's going to get left behind all of it. But there are a couple things that I think that she can do. If the fear about that is real, then why not look internally and try to better yourself. Try to see is like come to the realization that he was with you because he found you attractive when a lot of people maybe did not. That is probably still there because if you are in a long term relationship with a person, um, the looks will change. People will gain and lose weight. You could get maimed or whatever, but the emotional connection is still there. Unless you had no emotional connection at all and it was a relationship of convenience, which it really doesn't sound like it is. So why not try to see if you can maybe match his level? Maybe work out and maybe improve yourself that way. Or if you feel like that's just unachievable for you, um, maybe have a very frank and open conversation about um, where he is and where you are and the fears that you have with regards to it. But it's a difficult conversation because in a way you are using his success regarding his body issues against him, and people can have a tendency to resent that. So
Interesting. So you think that right now it's something more simple and more and less harmful, like jealousy and some kind of discomfort, but that it can grow into full-on resentment and drive a wedge.
absolutely, it can. I think this type of uh, initial fear of rejection or abandonment has a tendency to build up more um, if it goes unresolved. If you do not want to face that fear, then what you'll end up doing is ending up building up more fear in yourself regarding the situation. What you have to do is confront it, be it confront it within yourself or confront it with him and help you get through the situation together, assuming he is a caring and loving person that is still wanting to be in a relationship with you. But if you do find out that his emotions uh, about you have changed, better to find out now than to find out later. Um, I mean, that whole theory of just sort of rip the band-aid off and figure out the situation might be beneficial for you in the long run, because you do not want to fall into a deep dark hole of resentment after a while and then end up ruining the relationship anyway because of your inadequacies about what your relationship has come to.
Yeah, I hope they can work through this one. What the direction that this conversation has taken me in my head is maybe to talk about how a serious imbalance in attractiveness in a relationship, how that can have an effect. Because in general, most people date kind of within their range of attractiveness, but sometimes you will see people go a bit outside of that. Um, but I thought, for example, like, if there's a difference like money, right, a huge difference between how much money makes, it can actually affect the balance of power in a relationship. So in the same way, having a relationship with a person who is much more attractive than you or much less attractive than you can actually, that balance of power can be affected by that as well, as far as like what you feel you're entitled to in the relationship, who gets to say what we're doing at any given time, where we're going to go eat, uh, whether or not we, what kind of vacations we take. I mean, it could be anything really,
Yeah.
but also, and more importantly, what people put up with. Right, some people who are on the less attractive side of this relationship will put up with a lot more crap from the other person because they've given them a higher perceived value because of their beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And it can set like a standard that can interfere with future potential relationships. So if you dated a person who is super super attractive, then that relationship doesn't work out. Then going forward to the next relationship, you might have issues because you might feel like, oh, I need to date someone who's that much more attractive. So it can affect your standards in a negative way. Um, so then I ask, and I guess you can answer if you want to, but do people have to make up for it somehow if they're the less attractive one in the relationship?
They shouldn't.
But do they?
The correct answer is they shouldn't, but the actual real world situation is they do. You say that sometimes the less attractive person will put up with more things. That is absolutely true. But it is one of those things in which it's all based on perceived value of themselves. There are people who I don't consider attractive with enough self esteem that they would never, ever bow down or tolerate anyone, no matter how attractive that other person could be. Um, and it is just a matter of, to me, a little bit of self worth. So, like, if you have a very, very high esteem of yourself and value yourself greatly, then you most likely won't end up in a situation like that. No matter how quote attractive you are, and remember, attractiveness is all in the eye of the beholder, folks. Um, Something that is attractive to one person is not attractive to another. It is not saying that there is somebody who is just one person cannot just be attractive to everyone. There are always something or faults that somebody can find with somebody. Can somebody be very acknowledged to be attractive? Absolutely. Chris Helmsworth, superheroes, things like that. Absolutely. There'll be a lot of them, but there are also a lot of women who are just like, yeah, I don't find him that attractive, and that happens too. So the thing about it is that you also have to value yourself the same way, and say, you know what? It's like I'm an attractive person. I'm not. I don't find myself in any way deplorable or ugly or whatever. I am me, and a lot of people don't really value themselves that way. So, and then they end up basically succumbing, being in a relationship and finding out it's like, oh, I'm the less attractive one, so therefore I have to put up with stuff. Ugh, no, I'm sorry. It's just it. But the real world would basically say, though, a lot of the times it is going to be the person um who they say is the less attractive one that ends up putting up with the other side. Stereotypically, you see it with older men and younger women who are very, very stereotypically attractive, and the men putting up with all of that stuff. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, and on the other side of that coin is do you get to get away with more because you're the more attractive person? And that, in the same way, should be no, but then people do. So I think that also there will come a problem in some of these relationships where people get worried about how they're perceived by the rest of the world. So some of her stress may not be just based on the relationship between the two of them, but how the other people out there see them, right? So she might be worried that people think that they don't match anymore, and that somehow that makes their relationship diminished, or that because she's overweight and he's not anymore, that makes him an easier target for girls that would want to peel him off and take him for themselves. um, I don't know how real these things are. I don't think that it's so very soap opera 90210, like this shows how old I am, but basically like, oh, I'm going to steal your man kind of stuff. I think in most cases people are not running after someone else's man and sizing you up to see how they can get them from you, but it doesn't stop someone from worrying about it.
No, no. Yeah, that's right.
I think in the end, I think beauty is overrated and it's sadly overvalued. I think that, in time, all things become equal, and that choosing someone who is more for you on an intellectual and emotional level is much more valuable. But some lessons must be learned in time, and some must be. Some people will overvalue beauty and go through some really horrible relationships due to it. So, everyone's journey is their own. But for her, I hope that she can at least have the conversation that she needs to have with him to let him know what she's worried about and to get a sense of what he's thinking about the whole process, and
Yeah,
that they can salvage their relationship and hopefully get to a better place.
yeah. Hopefully. So yeah, I think we've covered that enough. But hopefully, there is an amicable situation, and maybe hopefully there is a happy ending at the end of that. So
Yeah. So we went a bit long today.
oh,
I think actually I don't even know what time we got started because we had a late start.
we did have a late start.
But
We started at around about 10:45, I think. So
okay, so not too late. We're a little bit over the hour.
yeah. So it is almost midnight though. So therefore, probably should cut it off here, and we should maybe talk about some of the topics here um, on Freeform Thursday, because there are a couple things here that I think would make some interesting discussions.
Cool, man.
Okay, so we're gonna end this here. Thank you so much for joining us again here on Twitchline. Hopefully, you found our conversation here interesting and helpful, based on the situations that we discussed. As always, join us here every Wednesday where we will discuss emails, Reddit issues, and or real life issues that you want us to discuss. You can always contact us here via our email address at twitchlinelove@gmail.com. You can also tweet us at Twitchline, contact us or watch us on YouTube, where you can see all of our older shows. Just search Twitchline Relationship Help and Advice. And also, you can go to SoundCloud if you want to take us on the go. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. And Freeform Thursday is tomorrow. We might actually get a little bit of a later start because I am helping with a CS project that the Owlet League is experimenting with, and I will be doing a highlight show earlier in that day. So plenty to talk about when we do get to Freeform Thursday, because I have been ridiculously busy this week, and just a lot of stuff to talk about. So catch us tomorrow, maybe 10 or 11-ish. And then also make sure you catch us here on Wednesdays and possibly on Sundays, as we try to catch back up here on Sundays, where we try and talk about our focus segments and go in depth on a topic. But that is going to do it for us. Thank you, Joy. Thank you again for watching us, and we will see you next time.
Peace.